Thank you. All right, it's going to be time. It is time for business, actually. And I understand, Mark, what tells me you knew something about this subsidy that you didn't tell us.
I did, Chamberlain and Mark, but I really wish I did, because I know I would have edged against it. But as you read in one of the newspapers earlier, 1 trillion naira for subsidy, and now maybe more than it was before President Tinubu. A worrying situation, obviously, for everyone. Well, let's get right into it in just a moment. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. And yes, subsidy is top on the mind of everybody right here in Nigeria. We know that NATO has threatened that from today. There'll be a shutdown. We'll get updates on that. And we know how it would affect you and I getting on the road, on transport and all of that. But first of all, let's start from the global space now. Oil prices fell as investor attention returned to demand output after reports of higher producer prices in the United States, which is the world's biggest oil user, stoked worries that sticky inflation and higher interest rate again in 2024 would lift fuel consumption growth. Let's look at the numbers for this morning. We see that Brent, which is Nigeria's own, this is what Nigeria deals in mostly, is down 0.7%. That's for Brent, and WTI from the United States, $78.78 a barrel, and that's down 0.5%. The WTI April contract was down 0.8% at $77.86, and both Brent and WTI contract had settled high on Friday as geopolitical tensions in the Middle East offset slowing demand forecast from the International Energy Agency. U.S. producer prices increased more than expected. Remember that inflation number that came out amid strong gains on the cost of services. Markets are also yet to see the direction of demand from China. That's a major also for the oil and gas after that country returned from a week-long Lunar New Year holiday, while President's Day in the United States is set to keep trade relatively muted. Moreover, Federal Reserve policymakers on Friday signaled patience towards interest rate cuts. Higher rates keep up the cost of buying oil, providing for a bearish market trend. Over the weekend, tension in the Middle East also hasn't stopped, continued as Israeli raids put the Gaza Strip's second largest hospital out of service. And Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi fighters claim responsibility for an attack on India-bound oil tanker. There you go, a major one there pushing the price of oil. Now in Nigeria, we know that today NATO said they were going to down-tool tankers that are supposed to convey oil, petrol, diesel from one location to the other. They have said that this will not happen. Now the federal government has ordered oil marketers to negotiate with the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners to avert that planned suspension of operation by NATO members with respect to the lifting of petroleum products nationwide. Reports say that oil marketers and the executive of NATO met about 6 times in the last 2 days. Weekend was very busy for them, declaration of petroleum products transport to halt operations. Well, there are also feelers that the federal government, through the downstream regulator and petroleum ministry, would meet with NATO members as well as other parties in Abuja to sort this out. This has not been confirmed yet, but these are some of the efforts that we're hearing. And the crux of the matter here is operational costs in the industry. According to NATO, they say that they can no longer keep up with the surge in the price of diesel. Now, let's find out the state of what's going on right now and probably confirm some of those stories with Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry. He's the president, Petroleum Products Retail Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria. Dr. Harry, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Well, not a very pleasant time for us now. And now we're having that to be, compounding all of that with NATO's threat. What's the situation now? Are the tankers on the road? Have they started the strike? Are there meetings? We hear they're supposed to meet with the downstream office also. What's going on from your perspective?
Well, I have... in my capacity as national president of the Retail Outlet Owners, I've been endeavoring to reach the president of NATO to know exactly where we're headed to He's been involved in several meetings, I believe, with the major energy marketers association and the government. So far, there is
hello, Dr. Harry. Hello? Well, I don't know. Dr. Harry, well, we cannot hear you. You're breaking up. Dr. Harry, can you hear me? We cannot make out your statement, unfortunately, because it's breaking up. But it would really be nice to have Dr. Harry tell us what's going on right there. While we try to sort that out, let's get to Kano State. Well, it's a matter of high cost of living. That is the story in Nigeria now. Whichever way you want to turn, whichever way you want to look at, be it in the petroleum sector, in the food, and all of that. Let's see what our correspondent in Kano, let's see what she put together. She went out to the street to get the perspective and experience of some residents in Kano State. We'll be back, and hopefully we'll have Dr. Harry by then.
The current economic hardship in the country has continued to be on the rise in the last few months. This has become a thing of great concern. In Kano State, the story is not different, as the effects can be seen in businesses, households, and every aspect of the people's lives. Kano Commercial City, as it is known, is also facing serious setbacks as a result of this economic turbulence. Some residents share their experiences and plights.
The economy is worse because a common man now cannot eat. Cannot eat. Your salary is not enough. We pensioners, we have nothing to go about. So even the promise that they will give 25%, up to now they have not done it. We have not received any cover. A mudu of local rice is 3,600. 4,000 a mudu.
I want the federal government to, number one, if they can open border for us. Number two, this promise they made that they are going to send about 42 tons of grains. They will release tons of grains into the country. And actually, to me, my own idea is they should not give it out as palliative, but they should just send it to the market and reduce prices for us.
The economy, as I can see, or as far as I'm concerned, is really telling on every individual. And I think the best way the government can help us is to bring down the prices of goods. Things are too expensive. The salary you were earning 5 years ago is still what you're still earning. And the prices of things, they've all gone up, at least by 300%, if I may say.
Nigerians are hoping and praying that the federal government quickly comes up with solutions to ease their sufferings. From Kano Commercial City, Nanchin Vincent, Channels Television News.
Well, I guess it doesn't. The picture is not looking good anywhere in Nigeria at this time. Well, not just in Nigeria, but let's face our country, for crying out loud. We do have the resources. How do we use it to make things better? Let's see if we can connect with Dr. Harry now, if his audio is okay. Now, Dr. Harry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Great. So you were saying before we had that interruption about your efforts to speak with the president of NATO and what's coming out of that.
Well, so far, I was expecting to get feedback from him. I didn't get that, but as far as Petron knows, NATO has a justifiable reason to have served the notice. The only concern we have is that we do not want to add more difficulty already overburdened Nigerians in different ways, different climes. So I'm hoping that something positive will come out of that discussion, and at least there will be some reprieve to get back to work and to call back that that notice.
What kind of reprieve do you see that could, I mean, you agree with them that, I mean, when we look at the price of diesel, which is the top #1 on their list, what kind of reprieve do you see coming? Because already we're talking of subsidy, and we do have subsidy according to World Bank, and from calculations, there's already subsidy in existence. So where does the reprieve come from at this time?
Well, the reality is that diesel prices are high. Yes, that is true. But much more than diesel prices is the cost of maintaining trucks. Maintaining cost, even just the vehicles you use, the cost to maintain them are getting out of over the roof. So what NATO is complaining about is correct. How much are you going to pay? Are you going to pay your drivers pitons, and then are you going to use substandard materials to repair your vehicles? That will even give more difficulty to the situation where you expect a product to leave Port Harcourt and arrive at Abuja maybe in 3 days, and then it takes about 2 weeks because of bad parts, that you have used to maintain your vehicle. And these are getting so expensive every day. So yes, there is a general reason why that concern should be addressed. But we need to move as fast as possible to give Nigerians a peace of mind and be able to go about their businesses to grow even the economy. So that's why we will support them.
Okay, but what kind of succor do you see at this time for NATO, especially because they are the ones in focus, at least at this time? Where should it come from? What should it look like?
Well, it simply should come because they are being paid. They are being paid by the government. Government kind of pays them some money to be able to compute that distance that they cover. Even though we retail outlet owners and marketers also pay for the services, but that payment from government augments that and gives them much more credit and much more confidence to be on the road. So what I expect is that NMDPRO and the Federal Ministry of Petroleum, Oil and Gas, and then also the presidency should have a very robust discussion. It's not just a concern of major energy marketers only. It actually concerns the regulatory agencies and all the marketers. And we all can sit down and discuss. This also should take into consideration some of the extraordinary levies that are being levied on marketers, such as the kind of amount of money we pay to the NUPENG, which is, completely unacceptable to us. We cannot be paying so much money that translates to over 4 naira a liter, and then we will go to the market to sell at prices that become difficult for us to explain to our patrons. So there's quite a number of things that need to be discussed, and we should be able to get to those points, in no distant time.
All right, we certainly hope that we can get to that point. Dr. Billy, thank you so much. Dr. Billy Gillis-Harry is the president, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria. We'll be following up, of course, this conversation, and we'll reach out to you later on today to get updates, because I know you'll be in touch with all of that, being a stakeholder.
Thank you.
All right, now, well, I guess we cannot say a whole lot outside the high cost of living. Now joining us to perhaps tell us if there's an ICT solution. They're saying everything that looks like a problem, there always is an opportunity. Well, joining us now to discuss perhaps the opportunities that may be available, which we haven't seen, or some of us have seen, the Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems Limited, Dr. Yele Okeremi, joins us in the studio now. I don't know, good morning, Dr. Okeremi. I don't know how much of the hits you were getting, NATO, diesel, food, staple food at this time. It seems, I think somebody said it's the worst since 1999, but You've lived longer than me. Maybe you tell me a better date.
No, well, of course. I mean, true, if you look at it from 1999, it's true. But again, there's a way the Yoruba people say this, that if we say we haven't seen this before, we are only scaring people. So once again, I mean, this has happened before in Nigeria, and where we have had high escalating costs, and where we have had serious depreciation of wealth of Nigerians in the foreign exchange market. I remember that in the 80s, just when the second-tier foreign exchange market was announced, the Naira was trading close to about 1 to 1 or the other, but actually at a point it was $1 was about 60-something kobo, then 75 kobo, and then it went to 4 Naira. So if you had $1 million Naira at that time, you had an equivalent of $1 million, and then just overnight you realize that you had only $250,000. So if what we are talking about, what we are seeing today, is like what I would call the traditional Phillips curve of the boom and the doom. So when we talk about what we call jackpot today, it didn't start today. Remember, when I was old enough, I was getting to in the university already, and then you remember Andrew, I'm checking out. So these are the things, these things have happened before. The question is that what were the triggers at that time? How were those challenges dealt with at that time? What are the triggers at this time? Because, to be honest with you, sometimes history would be a very good pointer to the solutions that you may need to do. But I think much more than history, you need knowledge. And the knowledge of these times that you live currently in. These are extremely challenging times. Because, I mean, one of the things I said, I don't think any reasonable person wants to be in government at this time. This is the worst.
For those who are already in government cannot run away from it. Actually, they're saddled with the responsibility.
They have my highest sympathy.
I think I saw the central bank governor say somewhere that he has the most difficult job on earth at this time.
I sympathize with him, honestly, because it's extremely difficult, because every human being wants to get results. And sometimes people want to get results at all costs. But when you are saddled with a situation where invariably you may get results, but again, people are impatient. Remember, you are dealing with human beings, and human beings are going to contribute to the process of resolving these challenges. Then this
and AI too. I mean, we just had the Minister of ICT, Dr. Bosun, just before you came on Sunrise.
Absolutely.
And he was talking about some of the work the administration is doing. Now, you are very vast in ICT. So perhaps there are some opportunities at this time. You know, I remember when COVID came, everybody was shouting, but today we live with some of the benefits of COVID.
Absolutely.
We do virtual, we just had a virtual.
Absolutely.
We didn't do that before COVID. So perhaps there are some things we could also leverage at this time.
Absolutely. But the challenge is what we call time lag. So, you know, one of the things people do not understand about economics and economic theories is when we talk about supply, demand, and all these things, what we do not understand is that challenge of time lag. For example, when we say the demand, the equilibrium price today is a demand, it's a function of demand and supply. Okay, fine, the supply curve, you want your supply curve to shift to the right. But the bottom line is that these things are not going to happen because you decree it. They are going to happen because there needs to be a process. They are going to happen because you have positioned yourselves ready. So what you are producing today is a function of policies you took in the yesteryears. Now, when you find yourself in the hole today, and you are trying to put up policies today, those policies are not going to yield the fruits that you are looking for today, unfortunately. Perhaps if the policies are good enough, they could yield some results in the future. But let's talk about those areas that I think there are opportunities. But again, I will warn you that the opportunities we are talking about and the results we are going to be looking at are not going to be instantaneous. And that's the biggest challenge. It's frustrating. Because, I mean, people are feeling hot. People are feeling hungry. People are feeling frustrated. And they want to be able to eat today, not wait for some policy, but unfortunately there's no quick fix. So you talk about the fact that we can use technology to do a whole lot of things, and that's absolutely true. So let's take a look at what we do in Nigeria. And one of the things I have said, I think I said it in this studio before I took my sabbatical, that I was going off television for a while. And I said one thing, that when we look at what we are thriving in as a country, we have been wasting our time and we've been fooling ourselves when we talk about celebrating achievements. And these achievements are good. I'm not saying they are not good. We say fintech, Nigeria is a hub for investment. No, that's a waste of time. If you really wanted to have something kinetic in Nigeria, we needed to look at what our lifestyles, what our being has been around. If you take a look at this society in Nigeria today, the biggest thing right now is oil. The question you need to ask yourself is how much value do Nigerians and Nigeria derive from oil? So talk about it. When I talk about oil technology, how much people are charting local content? We are just scratching the surface. Take a look at the entire technology process flow. Comes from outside this country. It's a whole lot of money. The question you ask yourself is it actually true that Nigerians or Africans do not have the capacity or the knowledge or the understanding to deliver these things? I don't think that's the situation. But let's assume without considering that that's the situation. Let's take a look at it and flip it the other way. Can't this understanding be acquired by Nigerians? How long would it take Nigerians to acquire these kind of things? And these are conversations that we've been having since the oil boom era. We haven't done anything in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. So what we do, we legislate local content, and we are still importing underwater welders to come and do things in Nigeria. We have the Bonga, which is quite a big offshore project. How much of Nigerians do we have? How much of Nigeria do we have in that? Now, if we are going to recover from this, and if we are ever going to recover permanently and become prosperous, Nigeria needs to begin to think of applying technology in those areas that are relevant to us. So I'm talking about oil and gas, I'm talking about agriculture. So for example, we talk about agriculture, and let's take a look at what's happening today. Before COVID, even people in tech like myself thought certain things were not possible. So in those days, people like me were virtually living in the air, because you have one conference in London today, you have one meeting in America, and then you keep flying all over the world. Sometimes you get very tired, but you keep going. But today, I attend 4 meetings in 4 continents in one day. That's because of the fact that we have used technology. So we're still, again, looking at agriculture in the primitive terms. But if we really deploy technology and, what countries like Israel are doing, using artificial intelligence and dealing with crop level issues, you realize that the throughput that you can generate agriculturally will be much insufficient to create at least food security in Nigeria. And there's an adage in Yoruba land again, that if you remove hunger from poverty, the poverty is already halfway gone.
But all this sound like things that the government, is there anything that the average Nigerian, the private sector can engage in, can, even start at this time?
So I will say something. I think there's a big challenge between the synergy, the government and the private sector. There's a big gap. And until we have synergy. So what you see smart business people doing is actually finding a means of paying government to get out of the way for them. Whereas what should actually happen is to get government involved and propelling private sector. But one of the challenges I see, and I mean, look, it's not about this government or any, the fact is that government in Nigeria does not yet understand the language of productivity. So when I see government, many government agencies today are turning themselves to regulators, when ordinarily speaking, they should have been enhancement organizations. And we just finished AFCON, for example, and I ask a simple question. Which of the countries that went to participate in AFCON was led by a referee? If you know you want to win AFCON, you get a coach, not a referee, to lead you. So a lot of government agencies want to become referees, telling organizations what you cannot do. No. Where we are now, government agencies really need to roll up their sleeves and come and collaborate with the private sector and not put too many bombs. So that rather than they putting bombs, slowing down private sector, what they should do is give the private sector a lot more fuel and create a very fair pathway so that they can go. Now you have asked what I think private sector should do. You say the private sector is doing as much. I personally get to see. I was president of the Institute of Software Practitioners a few years ago. And I know what the potentials are in that industry. But the honest truth is that the biggest challenge I see in the industry is market access. It's not about skill. So I hear government say they are going to train 5 million. You train 10 million people, what are they going to be doing? They're going to be doing crime? No. What I think we should do is let's identify productive organizations. They don't have to be many. Every nation does this. Identify some very productive, high-flying organizations, put fuel behind them, give them the kind of support that they need, allow them to grow very well, then use them as role models to create so many organizations. I mean, if you went to the United States today, you go and touch General Motors or General Electric, then you will see the full force of the United States. You go to India and touch Infosys, you will see the full force. Go to China and touch Huawei. Which companies do we do like that for in Nigeria? And in tech, take a look today. Perhaps 20 years ago, perhaps 25 years ago, the richest people were traders, they were miners, they were extracting things naturally. But today, who are the richest people? Who are the richest nations? They are all technology-driven nations. What is the factor of technology-driven nations? It's simple human capital. Nigeria has got it. We need to harness it.
All right, thank you so much. I think those are some deep insight that we have to, let's go and check the data and then, customize it. Even though a lot of these things are not new.
Absolutely.
A lot of our leaders
nothing is new.
Know this exactly, but
absolutely nothing is new.
Implementing it becomes something else.
It's an uphill task because you see, implementing it.
Perhaps it's political will.
It's beyond political will.
Okay.
You need the knowledge, you need the discipline, and you need human beings who in themselves are competent and self-confident.
Right.
Now, if you do not have that kind of a team, it doesn't matter how bright you are, you're going to get frustrated and you are going to burn out.
Wow. All right, thank you so much, Dr. Yelu Keremi, Chief Executive Officer of Precise Financial Systems Limited. Appreciate your time.
Always a pleasure, Edie. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, you too.
Yes.
All right, so now let's head to the market just before it's back to Sunrise team. Looking at it last week, this is a summary of last week. Osha Index gained 3.79%. Not as interesting as we've had it before, but we'll make do with this. This is what we have at this time. Equities cap 57.85 trillion naira at the close of trade. Of course, that's for the NGX. Activity was all in red. When we look at the week there, 1.55 billion, value 36.4, and 42,546 deals in 5 trading days. The sectors had a lot of red also. Banking was down. Consumer goods, however, remember Bua Foods did like twice last week, moved the market. So 10.96%. Industrial goods down. Insurance coming back up right there. Oil and gas are still looking really good. I think another interesting market will be at the FX market for last week. We know what's going on right there. So we see the turnover for that week ended. It was a total week-on-week change of less. We've been talking about that, liquidity in the market, and we know that Fitch has also sent in a warning recently that some of the efforts of the CBN might be detrimental to liquidity in the market. So we see at the close of trade last week, there was more than 56%. FX spot was also down, forwards down, and derivatives also down. So, of course, we're going to follow up this week. By 1 p.m., do join me for Business Incorporated. We'll go into the market and, of course, other very important issues in the country. But it's time for Sunrise Daily to continue. Hi, guys. Back to you.